everyone, how's it going? We're back with more mini faction madness in the form of an Adam deck. This one was based off the Malaysian second place deck for the Malaysian Nationals this year, Adam the Turtle Tamer. The last time we caught up with Adam the Turtle Tamer, he was at the inexplicable door, adventuring around when he suddenly found something lying on the ground, an item that would help him so much in his adventures to come. It's none other than the blue shell in the form of deep data mining. Come on, even the art's blue, you know it's a blue shell. And what's amazing is that deep data mining can be the closer I should say, one that mitigates the distance between yourself and the court when you are falling behind. So today we'll be looking at how we can leverage deep data mining in Adam to get some multi-access that the corp doesn't expect, allowing you to pull out some victories even when you're behind. So this is my list, modified from the original Turtle Tamer list. You'll notice that a lot of my cards have gone up to 3 offs, such as Data Sucker, such as Employee Strike. These were 2 offs in the previous deck. I just wanted more consistency here, and otherwise the rest of the deck is mostly the same. In fact, this doesn't look too different from the Sunny deck I played the last time as well. You'll see the same combo of Deep Data Mining, Employee Strike with same old thing. Turns out, if you're playing a mini faction, you're playing lots of resources. In Earthrise and Daily Cast, you're leaning on them very hard, therefore it's always nice to have these tools available. I won't go too much into the deck building detail, but one thing I really want to talk about with regards to building an Adam deck is that you really want to make every run count, and you want to compress compress your run such that you're accomplishing a lot of things with each run. And this is why I feel like Omaqua is by a long shot the best breaker choice for Adam. Not only is it very cheap at 1 influence, it also synergizes very well with Adam's propensity to run, because it fulfills his directives, triggers his Find the Truth, gets some virus counters, as well as neutralizing one of his directives as well, neutralize all threats. One thing that not many people know is that you do not have to trash the first asset or upgrade you hit each turn if you have previously accessed archives with at least 1 asset or upgrade in there, because that is counted towards your neutralize all threats requirement for the turn. So, as I said, enough about talking about the decks. Let's jump into the game, because what I really want to talk about is gameplay with Adam. Every single turn is very crucial, and you must make every run count. Let's see if I can do that. Anyone who has ever played Adam knows that the first thing to do is to choose your directives. For this deck, typically, you want to exclude always be running. I mean, the whole point of playing Adam is to get good HQ access, good R&D peaking, as well as a nice card draw engine in safety first. So picking these 3 directives seems like the strongest deal, especially since Always Be Running has been massively nerfed following the rotation of E3 feedback implants. There really isn't much reason to start with that, unless you're up against a very fast deck like CI with Mythic Ice. Otherwise you just play these 3 directives. Now my opponent goes asset Ice turn 1, and for my turn 1 I have to ask myself, do I want to run R&D here? CTM runs a lot of assets and upgrades. If I were forced to trash 1 off the top of R&D, I'll be really sad. That would put my money in a bad place. Thankfully, top card of R&D was IP block, so we're all good. However, my opponent does get DBS and CBG early on. This is really annoying, and I need to actually go after them. So I drop the Liberated and then run after the CBG. Both CBG and DBS are terrible assets that you need to keep out of play. Otherwise, with CBG, the corp can get very rich enough to C-Source exchange you, and DBS is a big problem because it allows them to hide agendas away from HQ into R&D. This makes your neutralize all threats much less effective. I will also have a very steady economy going with the Liberated accounts ticking down. As the author of Adam the Turtle Tamer noted, this used to be Temujin contracts, but ever since the ban list hit, Liberator accounts is his next best thing, and I do feel the same way. Liberator accounts is a good money card. It's worth the 2 influence that you spend it on. Now I draw amazingly into my remaining two Deuces Wild. Remember the mining accidents that I drew in the Sunny game? Well, this is pretty similar because Deuces Wild is the one card you want to see against CTM because it helps you remove tags very efficiently. So here what I actually did was to use Deuces Wild for the run and the clear tag ability. It's not often you do that. I exposed the remote ice, which was the Data Raven. I trashed the DBS and used Deuces Wild's clear tag to remove the tag from CTM there. I still had 2 clicks remaining and I wanted to go after the R&D which had a Project B on it. I saw that from Find the Truth. My opponent reveals an Architect which gets to fire unfortunately, but I get to see if they're installing the top card or not. They do not. They install card number 3 and they revive one of the assets I just trashed, the CBG. Unfortunate, not much I can do about it. I did know that the inside ice was IP blocked, so I knew that I could get in without a breaker. This was quite important. So since I was much richer than my opponent, the trace wasn't an issue. I ran it and I was able to easily steal the build. Even though I gave up an Architect Fire, this is very, very important for Adam. A lot of Adam players will know this, but if you do not get an early agenda, you're going to be very suffocated for the rest of the game because safety first limits your hand size very terribly, which in turn limits your card draw and limits your options. Limiting your memory is also a big issue because you're relying on having lots of memory to trigger fully effective deep data mining. So getting this early build is a very big deal and allows me to snowball for the rest of the game. What I did concede, however, was tempo to my opponent. Architect firing on CBG is not what I wanted to see, and it looks like they fortified the CBG with an MVT. I'm sorry for using all these acronyms, but I really don't want to spell them all out. Mambet Virtual Tour is terrible to trash. I'm sitting here thinking, how can I get that CBG out of play without having to be to force trash the MVT? With my credit level and options in my hand, it's very difficult because they're all 3 to install. I would have to install both the Orchestra and the Cast in order to dodge the MVT, but this would leave me very poor after the run, which is not acceptable against someone who might be running hard-hitting news. The correct answer, which I did not see during the game, was actually to play Cast and then Deuces Wild, using the Deuces Wild to run and then trashing the CBG first. That would leave me with 3 credits when I access the MVT. So access order and deciding on the correct options for Deuces Wild had to be used in the correct combination, which I did not see during the game. Instead, what I did was to draw click 1 and hope to draw an installable that could put me out of MVT range, which wasn't the case. I drew a same old thing instead. With absolutely no hope of dodging the MVT tags, I decided to concede the CBG to my opponent, at least for this turn, instead choosing to set up with my Earthrise daily cast. They review another pack campaign, so they're gonna be rich pretty soon, and start icing up HQ. Alrighty, now I start drawing and I see my breaker, my turtle that is about to be tamed. But first, do I contest the CBG this turn? Remember, I still have the Deuces Wild, and now I'm in a much more comfortable credit position to contest the CBG. It could be very risky, but I feel like if I don't contest it now, I'm gonna get hit with a hard-hitting news sooner or later. So nope, I'm gonna set up because I'm too afraid of hard-hitting news. So here we go. Turtle Tamer tames the turtle, gets the same old thing down. I think my objective here is to basically accumulate counters on the Omaqua without going to hard-hitting news range, and that's gonna be difficult, but thankfully I draw into a Dirty Laundry, so my path is made clear. Get the sucker down, Dirty Laundry Archives, get a Find the Truth trigger, and I see Global Food. So this is quite awkward. I can theoretically... No, I can't. Architect strength 3, IP block strength 4. The most I can get is 2 counters on each Omaqua and Sucker, which are not enough to get into R&D. If I were to get into R&D, I would have to let Architect fire. Not acceptable. So I would have to concede the Global Food, sadly. And I think that's fine as well, because if you think about it, stealing the Global Food is not very good if they can exchange it for their own 15 minutes. Which is probably going to happen sooner or later given my failing economy. I was not able to escape hard-hitting news range there, and my opponent slapped 4 tags on me. Well, it's time to play Tag Me. I don't think I can survive if I take the entire turn off clearing tags, even with Deuces Wild in hand. My opponent has CBG and Pad Campaign and DBS up. they are going to get rich again in no time. They're going to find a second hard-hitting news in no time. This is time to go tag me, and I think it's fine. But the most important thing to do is to actually abuse this one turn window when they're only on 1 credit to make the most out of running the servers while they're still poor. So here comes Mad Dash on HQ to see half the cards in the hand, and I see a toll booth and a Project Bill. Thankfully for the Bill, I managed to get up from 2 to 5 points straight away. So this was a very risky move because it was very possible my opponent had no agendas in hand at all from all the DBS filtering, but it turns out they did, and this move massively paid off in my favor. Because not only did I get up to 5 points, I did not have to steal a global food while doing so, meaning that any exchange of informations will not be that effective. It will give my opponent 1 fewer point than they're used to. Now I continue on my turn knowing that I'll be fully tagged, but which way to go? I haven't drawn my deep data mining yet, so R&D isn't really available, and the top card of R&D from Find the Truth is Hedge Fund. So that's a problem because I can't run R&D to win. There's no agenda on top, but I know that they will be in hedge fund range next turn with all the drip economy going. So at this point, I'm looking to the remote and I'm seeing that CBG there, and I'm like, I want to trash this so that they can't get an easy hedge fund next turn. So I dirty laundry the CBG, so this allows me to access the MVT without having to trash it. And then going back up to 7 credits, so that's good. And on my last turn, I'm just going to casually clear a tag because the fewer tags the better. And I decided to draw 2 cards. Booyah! There's the deep data mining I've been looking for. So yeah, very interesting turn of events there. Perhaps it would have been better for me to play the Deuces Wild and draw first before actually running the CBG, because I could have changed my mind. I could have went for deep data mining instead. No, maybe not. No, I can't. My breakers were not good enough. Anyway, my opponent does the exchange trick, and the worst thing is they exchanged it with a 15 minutes, which they then immediately shuffle back to their deck. So that immediately robbed me of 2 agenda points. This was a good move by my opponent, but I'm not deterred at all. If you notice, I did draw my trump card in the deep data mining. Even though I'm behind in terms of being tag flooded and having my agenda points robbed from me, those true legit agenda points that I stole with my own bare hands, well, the blue shell is going to come and it's going to mess up the corp. So, after that turn, and after my opponent played the preemptive action, I went straight into the deep shadows of the nets. I went for a 5 card access on R&D. With my pumped up Omaqua, I'm able to easily walk through the ice, take a tag from the IP block. Thanks, Turtle. And I'm going to see 5 cards. Yep, that's thanks to having Brain Chip and 3 agenda points. The 5 cards I'm going to see are the Hedge Fund I saw with Find the Truth. Second card is Targeted Marketing, better keep that in mind, that's a current. Force Trash Daily Business Show, Data Raven, and Maryland Campaign. This run came up short. Very disappointing. But wait, we're not done with the blue shells just yet. Even though our opponent evaded the unevadable, we still have 2 more same old things on the board, ready to fire at any time for multiple deep data minings. And because my opponent has DBS up and running, they're actually plowing through the deep data mine lock faster than they might like. So they've landed the second hard-hitting news on me, placing 8 tags on myself, and I really don't care. With Omaqua, I can easily get up to strength against the resistors, and I even have Always Be Running in hand if I really need a one-off solution against said resistors. So I'm just gonna same old deep data mining here before my opponent gets the opportunity to trash both my installed same old things. And I'm gonna see, I think, 4 fresh cards. I think the top cards are Maryland. That it is, which means I see 4 fresh cards. Second card, QPM. Damn it. Third card is Resistor. Fourth card is Commercial Bankers. Fifth card is Project Bill. Okay, so that's the last bill of the way. Firstly, very important to note. Secondly, that's 1 of 3 kitty cats in the score area. That's not good. And to make things worse, my opponent found another exchange, putting them on 4 points to my 4 points. I'm inching that much closer to my victory, but I'm helping my opponent get there as well. The QPMs and the 15 minutes are really helping my opponent out. And they finally find the time to override my E-Strike with Tama. Not that that really matters anyway, I'm kind of tagged to hell. So, what do I do here? I still have 1 more same old thing at my disposal, but I don't have the money to fire it. It costs 4 credits to get past R&D, 3 if you ignore the IP block trace, but I have to worry about the outermost R&D ice at this point. There are 2 main ice that I'm worried about now. Can you hazard a guess at what my opponent's outer ice may be on R&D? Pause the video, have a think about it, list down the possible ice that you are most worried about, and then we'll continue on with the video. Yep, I think it's pretty obvious that that is probably a resistor, given that we saw it on our last deep data mining. However, we must keep in mind that that could very well be a toll booth. Now, toll booth is a big problem because it means we need to start our run with extra money, otherwise we won't get through. So it could be either way, mostly leaning towards resistor, which means that now with my 9 tags, I have 7 virus counters between Omaqua and Sucker, which means that I need just 1 more archives run to make the 9 strength required. That's what I'm thinking about right now. Do I run R&D, hedging the bet that the R&D ice is not a toll booth? If it is, I'm going to be set back pretty far because losing 3 credits is not something I want to do right now. Otherwise, a very good play right here would be simply run archives, take a credit, same old deep data mining. Again, trying to get the deep data mining off before my opponent realizes that they really shouldn't be leaving same old things on the table. I choose not to, fearing the worst in the toll booth, because if I fizzle a deep data mining to toll booth, I'm essentially putting myself out of the game, given that I need to steal 2 more agendas to win. So my opponent sees that WinCon in daily business show and goes to ice it, as well as putting a protective upgrade on it, and then trashing my Find the Truth. Interesting that they didn't trash my deep data mining, or rather my same old thing, which means I'm going to go for it. Run archives to get a total of 9 virus counters between the 2, and same old deep data mining. I'm slightly concerned that there might be a CVS on one of the upgrades in the remotes, but it doesn't seem to be the case. So I'm going to blow through this resistor, break that architect, smash through the IP block, and what do we see? 2 cards, 3 cards, hard-hitting news, resistor, AR enhanced security. Okay, that puts us at 5 points. 4 agendas in my score area, 5 points. This is tough. This is really trying to claw a victory out of nowhere. But as you notice, I'm not completely locked out. Unlike the old days of CTM, now it's much harder for CTM to find a win con. In the post-Core 2 and rotation world, it's much harder for the Corp to hide their agendas with Sensi Actors Union and reshuffle their tag punishment tools with Jackson Howard. In the past, this was what made CTM pretty powerful, the ability to draw through that tag so quickly. But now all my opponent has going for them is the daily business show and the boatload of cash they're making. So this is actually turning out to be a very interesting game, even though I've been tag flooded for the past umpteen turns. I'm definitely still in it. I just need to find a way to fetch the final 2-pointer, most likely a global food. Trouble is, my opponent knows that just as well as I do. So they are not letting up in terms of icing up R&D, and I know they have more than enough money to defend R&D. So the only most logical choice for me here is to challenge the DBS and wait for agendas to filter into my opponent's hand. After all, HQ is much more lightly defended than R&D. Observe how I approach this following turn with that objective in mind of sieging HQ. First, I get an alternative means of getting to HQ down on the table in the Always Be Running. Then I take a credit, and then I run archives to charge up my Omaqua and Sucker that much more. So next turn, I'll have 2 ways to get into HQ. Either by breaking with Omaqua or breaking with clicks for Always Be Running. And my opponent can't contest both because they can't purge and trash the Always Be Running in the same turn. Not that it mattered because they found Psycho food for the win. So it seems like I lost to asset spam, and that asset spam is annoying, it's boring, it is degenerate, etc. But really, I think I just misplayed. There was ample warning that the assets were coming, but I left them on the table for far too long. My opponent had a DBS up for basically the entire game, and I just didn't react quickly enough to the commercial bankers group. I definitely could have challenged them if I wanted to, but I think I was playing around hard-hitting news a bit too much, and I wasn't making my moves optimally, as you saw from that turn where I was dancing around the MVT. Unfortunately, yeah, it can be unforgiving that way, in the sense that if you make a wrong move against assets because they're so powerful, the tables can easily turn against you very quickly, and you quickly lose your win percentage points every single turn those assets are up, and I think that definitely happened this game. That being said, to be fair to myself, my opponent did draw most of their DBSs and CBGs early on. I think I trashed 3 daily business shows and at least 2, if not 3 CBGs throughout the entire game. That was quite ridiculous actually. If they were all somewhere in the middle to the bottom of the deck, it would have been a completely different game. I had an okay draw. I didn't see strike early, nor did I see deep data mining early enough, but I did see all 3 deuces whilst early. So I had an average draw, but my opponent had a good one, and sometimes this difference can be enough to make or break a game, and it was in this case. That being said, I don't think it was very unfair at all. It just so happened that this was a poor matchup. I kept thinking back of how I could have played better this game, and aside from, you know, dancing around MVTs and hard-hitting users better, honestly, there was not much I could have done. And when you think about it a bit more, that's because fundamentally, CTM is simply a weak matchup for Adam. It's not that CTM is overpowered or unfair or anything. In fact, some runners such as Misdirection Haley crush it. The problem with Adam is that the things that Adam want to do are things that CTM is happy for you to do. You want to run every single turn to get all those run triggers, but that means you're activating HHN every turn. You want to get neutralize all threats up, you want to get lots of early accesses, but that means that you are spending money to smash assets that you access, and CTM's more than happy for you to do that. Similarly, once you have tagged me, you can't have your resources up anymore, and those resources do power your deck. So yes, this is quite a weak matchup for Adam. You can definitely solve the problem by slotting in a bunch of scrubbers instead. After all, scrubbers are good synergy against neutralize all threats, which you're almost always starting with anyway. So yeah, if you slot into this deck, you can rename the deck from Adam the Turtle Tamer into Adam the Seal Scrubber. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you're enjoying this mini faction series as well. See you next time. Happy net running. Goodbye.